This episode of What If It's Cool is brought to you by Respro Clothing. Respro Clothing, where you can get the latest merchandise from all the stars, including Luke Resner, Som, Savannah Rowe, Nova Nichols, and my personal favourite, Conflict Axiom. So make sure you check out Respro Clothing. You can find them on Facebook and on Instagram. Alpha Pro Wrestling presents Glorious Purpose, happening on February 10th at the Sunbury Memorial Hall, featuring the 14-man heavyweight championship tournament. Ticket link is in the description. Make sure to check it out. Before you check out Glorious Purpose, make sure to check out Energy, happening also on February 10th at 2 p.m. at the Sunbury Memorial Hall. Ticket link is in the description. Make sure to check it out. Adrenaline Pro Wrestling presents Breakout 39, happening on February 16th, featuring the up-and-coming stars of Adrenaline Pro Wrestling. Ticket link is in the description. Make sure to check it out. Mayhem Pro presents Showcase, The Road to Mayhem Mania, happening on February 16th. Ticket link is in the description. Make sure to check it out.
Prepare for combat.
MXW presents Mildy Kombat, happening on March 2nd at the Sets Mildura. Ticket link is in the description. Make sure to check it out. Hello and welcome to another episode of What If It's Cool, the show where we talk about anything and everything that is cool in the world today. I am Daniel Paul Crow. On this episode, I have Jeremiah Kingsley on, and we'll be talking about and remembering the late, great Roxy Ryot. We'll be talking about what exactly happened on her final days, and also the event of Forever Roxy. But we'll also be just, having a bit of a laugh and talking about some of the best moments of her life and her career, and remembering this amazing woman. So sit back, relax, and enjoy Forever Roxy Ryot. Jeremiah Kingsley, firstly, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule, because I know you have a family and I know it's hard to get you at times.
Well, it's actually quite good because I have no kids today. First day back at school, the house is empty, and I feel great.
Ah, man. So as long as we, have some fun, I think that's all that really matters. Now, I purposely did not want to do this episode for a while because obviously I wanted to give you time to grieve, because obviously what happened with your late wife, it still hurts, and I know it's a very touchy subject, and my thoughts and prayers go out to you, Mud, because it's a horrible thing to go.
It's a shit situation, and it's been about 8 months now almost. So, last time we spoke, I think it was just after the Roxy show. No, it was because we did the reaction Wednesday for the Rumble, which was cool. At those points I was probably still a little bit on the downside of things, but in the last few months and Christmas and stuff and whatnot, it's actually been pretty positive. So I'm not as bad as I thought I would be.
Well, you're as I've said to you off camera, I'm always here if you ever need to talk. Not on the show, always outside of the show. I do want to try to understand what happened, because obviously it's not a very common thing, and I don't want to touch on too much, but I just want to exactly know what exactly happened there.
All right, so we went for her 36th birthday. We went to Bali. First time she's ever traveled internationally. We just got her passport. She bitched and complained about how much it cost, but she was really excited. It's the first time she's been anywhere, and we didn't bring the kids either, so it was just me and her, which was great. Before we left, she said she had a slight little earache in her right ear. Now, she was profoundly deaf in her right ear. She had a tumor when she was 17, so 20 years ago. She had a tumor that was removed, and it resulted in her being profoundly deaf in that right ear. So, yeah, she had a little niggle, but it wasn't bothering her. It didn't bother her in Bali. She didn't go really swimming, so she wasn't in underwater or anything like that. And she just got a full tattoo arm sleeve in like a 7-hour session. She's nuts. We, on the descent back, she was hunched over and she was in a bit of pain. And I thought that was normal because of the fact that she would, like when she the last time we went on a plane, we took a trip to the Gold Coast. We took the kids, and she had issues on the descent and on the ascension as well too. And it was just, I thought that was just normal. But then she started complaining. She had a slight headache as we're going through customs. So we got home and she had Panadol. She was fine. She still had a little bit of a pain, but it wasn't bothering her as much. But then later that night, she was in a little bit more pain. So I ended up on the 31st of May. I ended up early hours in the morning. I took her to a hospital. But basically, in a nutshell, we were there for hours. We were separated, and then when I left to take the kids to school, I came back and she was already discharged. And she was crying. She was in pain. It was unbearable. So there's a few issues there that I'm trying to find out and see exactly what happened, because I wasn't. So after the discharge, she was given codeine. She was given antibiotics, and she was given eardrops, and just told the rest. And there was no signs that it was anything from Bali. But it was mentioned, I know, that okay, so you came back from Bali and how you got an ear infection. Then within 2 hours of her being home, she did not move from the bed. She sat upright and she couldn't lie down. She literally, by the time I went to bed at like 10, 11 o'clock that night, she was still sitting upright and she wasn't talking. She wasn't moving. She was just in pain. And I gave her the eardrops and the codeine and said, look, we've just got to keep going, fight it, and do what they've said. Then around 3 a.m., 2 a.m., somewhere around there, she woke up having a seizure.
Oh, no.
And I got the dog and the kids in a room because I had to wake them up, obviously, and I didn't want the little man to freak out. Because I was freaking out. The seizure, she managed to lie down, but the seizure made her sit up, and then she was just convulsing. And I panicked because she normally doesn't like that. So I was screaming at her and saying, look, I was like, you need to wake up. Come on, wake up. Listen, it's time not to be silly. Come on, wake up, or I will call the ambulance. You do not want me to call the ambulance because you don't want to pay that fine. But normally something like that, she'd snap out of it, but she didn't. And I called the ambulance. They came in. I had to help them cart her out onto the trolley because I couldn't get the trolley in. So I was literally holding her head and holding the stretcher type thing that they had for her. They took her straight to another hospital. And by the time I got there, they told me that they put her in an induced coma. And of course, everything was like, okay, how is this real? Like, it's just, you see this sort of shit in movies, you don't expect it to happen to you. And then, after a lot of phone calls and a lot of time sitting there, I met with the doctor. And I mean, he was fantastic. He was very supportive. But he basically came out and said, look, we think it's this. And I'd never heard of pneumococcal meningitis before. I know meningitis, obviously, like meningococcal and like in kids and stuff like that. But I'd never heard of that. Basically, what it was that the ear infection that she had in her right ear, we believe that I believe, I'm not sure if it's true or not, but the descent down on the plane, because she had that infection, the small hole that potentially she could have had from that surgery 20 years ago may have expanded and expanded in a much where the infection landed on her brain fluids. That then traveled down her spinal cord, traveled down her brain stem, and rendered her completely incapacitated. It's something that is very rare, but it's also something that is very fatal and very fast moving. So yeah, they wanted to do a lumbar puncture to check to see whether or not it was, so they can confirm it and try and give her the best chance of fighting it with the right antibiotics. Then they came back to me and said, look, this is the situation. It definitely is pneumococcal meningitis, and that the survival rate is less than 10%. We're giving her the best care we possibly can, but we need to have that hard conversation with you that you may have to organize stuff because she is highly likely she won't make it. I sat in that hospital waiting room after the doctor left for a good half an hour, just frozen. I didn't know what to think. I was pinching myself going, how is this real? Like, we were literally just talking about planning our wedding, and the next moment, yeah, I was never going to be able to speak to her again. And then once they told me, they basically said that the damage was so severe that even though by the time we had to say goodbye, the antibiotic worked and defeated the infection, but the damage was way too far done already. Her brain was so damaged that it got to the point where they would, while she was in that coma, they would they'd do something where you had to make a reaction for her to try and cough, but there was nothing. Her pupils weren't responding to any light, nothing. It was literally, she was brain dead. It completely destroyed her. And on the 6th of June, we had to say goodbye. And that was that. I stayed with her after she passed because I had my whole family. I had her two children, my two stepchildren, with me, her best friend, and her dad, and then my dad. And my mum didn't want to be there. She wanted to remember her for the last time she saw her. And yeah, my sister, my brother, we're all there watching her literally take her last breath. It's something I don't think I would want my own enemy, or my own worst enemy, to go through, even though I don't really have any enemies. It's very, very morbid. It's very, very scary, and it's very, very unbearable. But it just made me realize how fragile life is and how important it is. And to live life like it is your last, because it could be. I stayed with her after she'd passed. Once my sister told me, because I could see her in her eyes and she was crying, and she literally looked at me and she goes, and shook her head. She goes, "No, she's gone." So I screamed. And then everyone said goodbye, and I sat there and lied with her for roughly about 10 minutes, and just held her, and then said my final goodbye. And yeah, that was that. She didn't deserve that. She didn't really live a fulfilling life. She suffered by BPD, which is borderline personality disorder. She had severe anxiety, severe depression. She didn't have very many friends. She didn't have a lot of family. She felt like an outcast. Once we had our little man, she spiraled, because as soon as she stepped away from wrestling, she felt insignificant. Nobody wanted her, even though it was clear as day to me that when she was around and everything else, like, everyone loved her. Everyone thought she was great. Behind closed doors, she grew a harboring spite for anyone that had success over her. She grew very, very bitter towards the wrestling scene. When the Southern Hemisphere Wrestling Alliance got sold, she basically said, "Well, I'm done. There's no way I'm ever going to get into a company like Explosive Pro Wrestling, purely because of the fact of the way I look and how I can't commit to training sessions. I'd never get booked. I don't have any value. And then she just became bitter, and I tried everything I could to keep her involved. As soon as COVID hit, and that was literally the time, like a month or two later after COVID officially started, our son was born. So he's the COVID baby, born on my birthday, the cheeky bastard. He came along, and I focused on being a stay-at-home dad. I lost my job as a travel agent. I had my career for 6 and a bit years, and I decided, instead of going to try and find work, I'm going to stay home and watch my son grow up, because I never got to do that the first time around with my first 2. So there's 5 kids in total that I care for now. I get my other 2 kids from my first relationship every second weekend, so they're going to be here this weekend, which is cool. But I literally say, like, I have 5 kids that I care for. I'm a widowed father of 5. Technically, yes, by law, we weren't married, but I always told her we didn't need a certificate to literally feel like she was my wife. And she goes, yeah, whatever. I still want that ring, motherfucker. Yeah, it was a pretty rough time. Going to the cemetery and picking up her ashes was probably almost as hard as lying on the bed with her after she had passed, seeing emotionless and stuff. I don't want to go too morbid into details, but it was definitely really difficult and really hard. And I made a promise to her that day. I basically said to her, no matter what, I'm going to make sure everyone remembers you for the person that I knew who you were, whether she believed it or not, because she deserved that. In the newspaper, after everything happened, I told them who she was, and in the hanging up, actually, she was labelled a barrier breaker, because she really was. She came at a point where Southern Hemisphere Wrestling Alliance was, I think it was 2015 she started, and she was extremely shy, but it gave her confidence that she'd never had before to get in the ring. And there was only one woman at that point that was regularly performing. That's Michelle K. Hasluck, and they grew a bond together, and worked together. And I mean, Michelle was rapt to have another woman there, and being a plus size girl as well, like, it was extremely scary for her to put herself out there in that sort of avenue. But I mean, she felt a little bit more confident because she wasn't performing in front of hundreds and hundreds of people. It was like 60 to 100 sort of thing. So it wasn't a massive sort of thing for her, to the point where she freaked out in doing it. But yeah, hang on 2 seconds.
Nice. Oh,
sorry to make you go all teary-eyed, but yeah.
No, it's no, mate. That's you know, that's just
when it came out in the paper, I got it. I cut it out and I got it laminated. So
yeah,
that was really cool. I basically, that was the championship that she won, a men's one. First woman to ever win that belt. And yeah, literally, she was a barrier breaker. I didn't realize how much of an impact she made until she was gone. Because of the fact that there were people coming out of the woodworks from all over the country reaching out to me, some telling me that how much she meant to the wrestling world, but also that how, you know, that she was an inspiration, that she was known over East. She always thought that she was just a little fish in a giant ocean. And that, you know, being over this side of the world, most secluded, you know, populated place in the world, yeah, she just felt very insignificant. And to hear the support that I got from everyone, and just, you know, giving her that recognition. I mean, obviously, Craven was one of the first ones to really mention it on a national level. He wore her logo and three hearts, black, purple, purple, black, purple. Yeah. And he wore that at a wide bay show and mentioned it and let them know. And she got a standing ovation, basically. Brought me to tears. It just made me realize that there's something I need to do. I really, really need to. With this outpour of support, I felt like I needed to keep my promise, not just to keep my promise of being a good dad and raising our son and her kids and mine, but I needed to continue her legacy. And that's why I decided that, yeah, I'm going to put a show together in her honor and try and raise awareness for meningitis, especially that sort of strain of meningitis. And if I could raise the money and put on a show and bring people together, then that's what I'll do. You know, selfishly, there's a part of me that was like, I get to live my dream now because I've always wanted to run my own show. I've always wanted to piece it together and, you know, like dictate how the show is going to play, who's going to be in what match, all that sort of stuff. Like I've loved wrestling since I was 13 years old. And then becoming a wrestler at the age of 30, thinking that, you know, my time had passed, but then realizing that I was in my prime pretty much. Being able to do that just gave me that sense of this is what I want to be doing until I can't do it anymore. The 4 years off that I had was really hard because I felt like a part of me had died. And she could see that too. And she didn't like it that I was struggling. But at the same token, she reminded me, goes, whilst you might not be competing, you're doing a great job as a dad, and that's what you wanted to do. So yeah, Forever Roxy Ryot was created. It all happened really quickly, actually. I had a conversation with a guy from Southern Territory Wrestling. He actually came to me first thinking that he wanted to do like a show. And I said, well, and if anyone's going to do a show, it's going to be me. And whilst I appreciate the idea, I think it's probably wise that I control this from top to bottom. So I reached out to Explosive Pro Wrestling, who I've been working for the last 4 years, and they've been a massive support all the way through it. Bobby Marshall was there for me whenever I needed it. Came to see Roxy at her bedside. And yeah, he said, look, whatever you need. So something that they don't normally do, they lent me the ring, no charge. And you know, here's a one-off. So let's do what we can for you. They lent me their production, they lent me the stage setup, all that sort of stuff. I got the venue, traditionally placed the last time she was seen at a local Perth wrestling show was Armadale Arena. So I thought it was a fitting tribute to, if I'm going to have a show, I'd rather have it at a place where she was last seen. She did have one match, her last match outside of Perth, which was in Manjimup. It's about 2.5 hours outside of Perth. And but she doesn't really like to talk of it too much because it wasn't really much of a spectacle for her. No digs at her opponent. I think she just wasn't in the right mind frame at the time. That and the fact that she found out that she was 4 weeks pregnant after the fact. So yeah, I had it there, and then I put the word out. And I started calling people, people that I knew that had worked with her, or at least people that she wanted to work with. So Vixen was a prime example. Vixen, Carla idolized her a little because, you know, such a bigger girl as well too, and just kicking ass. And she followed her on Insta. She would talk about her all the time. and she was like, she's badass. And then obviously the other girls I had on the show, Rochelle Rogue, I'd actually had a conversation with Kyla about who some of her potential opponents she would be, and Rochelle was one of them. So I was like, I have to have you over. And then, Izzy Shaw and Michelle Gay has like massive history. Both of them had really, really strong rivalries with Roxy. Michelle and Roxy had the first ever WA women's tables match at Ascension 8 at the Southern Hemisphere Wrestling Alliance.
Wow.
Which Roxy went over. We have a piece of the table at home that was signed by both of them, right next to my one that I had signed by Jared Slate. My first tables match within my first year, which was cool, but it's not really about me. So yeah, I was just like, cool. How am I going to put this together? How am I going to piece it together? What do I do? And then, yeah, kind of about a month, almost 2 months actually, after the day she died, Roxy Ryot, Forever Roxy Ryot was an absolutely amazing show. And I managed to raise over $7,000.
That's impressive.
It was really, really good to be able to do that, to be able to have the wrestling community bound together, to not take payments or anything like that, just giving their time, helping me put it all together. It was really, really good. And I didn't expect any of it. In this day and age in wrestling, wrestlers want to give their time, and they expect, which I would too, expect sort of, payment for that sort of thing. We put our bodies on the line, anything could happen. We could injure ourselves and screw up our everyday life, jobs and whatnot. So, having some sort of payment along that lines is beneficial. We back in my Schwa days, I never really ever got paid wrestling. I just loved it too much. But now in this day and age, it's kind of a given. So to be able to have people just go, no, we're going to do it for free was really good.
Mm.
So yeah, I put the word out, and I got a few people involved. I got a few people keen to do it and to fly in. And as you know, obviously the big surprise being Craven on the show, even though the cheeky bastard and I came up with a concoction to say he wasn't going to be there. Got you pretty good.
Got me pretty good, and I was pretty pissed off at him for a good week and a half, because I was like, you fucking lied to me, like you because like during that time, he was telling me a lot more about Roxy, because obviously, like I've said previous on a few episodes of Reaction Wrestling Wednesdays, the same week I found out about Roxy, I watched one match. The match just escapes me for a second. Was also the same week that she passed away, and Craven was the first one to obviously announce it, like you said, and he was telling me story after story after story about her. I'm like, oh, this is fantastic, and then he drops a bombshell. Oh, I'm not actually gonna be honest. I was like, dude, why? You find some way, and he just left it there. And then finally, when the announcement came out that you had him as a secret entrant, I was like, you. We pulled on my heartstrings, mate. I thought we were friends.
Well, see, I owe Craven a lot more than people realize. So you can probably bleep out his real name if I do say it.
Yeah.
But Craven and I have a historic rivalry. I've had in my wrestling career, and Kyla was there for it through all of it, and she loved both of these guys. But Jared Slate and Craven were my two biggest rivalries in my own wrestling career. When I started in 2017. I met Kyla the April 1st, 2017 at a creator wrestler workshop. That's what the school was called. Open day. And I met her and we clicked straight away. We found out that we actually went to the same high school reunion, didn't know each other at all. And then wrestling brought us together. And within 3 months, because the school wasn't really overloaded with students, and they had someone in a story, but for some reason, other circumstances I'm not fully aware of, they couldn't do the show. So the owner at the time was like, okay, cool. Let's look into our school. Let's see who is ready enough to give it a go and to be on a show. And they picked me. I'm able to. I've watched a lot of wrestling, so I was kind of able to really pick it up quite quickly. I'm a very, very good post. So I was able to base and post and bump and do all that sort of stuff quite quickly. My strikes are shit, but that's a different story. I'm a bigger guy. Like I'm around the 115 kilo at the moment. And when I was wrestling, I'm about at my wrestling weight now. So I was a bit, I'm just under 6 foot, so I'm not a big powerhouse. However, because I look like a bigger guy, I can perceive myself as a big, strong, moving guy. So the story was that I got selected. Jared Slate was in a heated rivalry with the infamous Sean Ravage of the Ravage Foundation. He was the Southern Hemisphere Wrestling Alliance general manager. Ravage had been a former wrestler and turned GM, and everyone absolutely hated him. He used to come out to Back in Black by AC/DC. So he turned that song that everyone loved into something that they all hated as soon as it came out. And he had a heated rivalry. He was trying to get rid of Jared Slate out of Schwa. And then they set up a match where Slate had to face off against Ravage's protege, and Ravage's protege was Roxy Ryot. So they basically had they had 2 shows where they beat the absolute living shit out of each other. And then it got to a point, I was like, all right, cool, we're going to make it a tag team match. Seems you think that it's unfair, that things have been happening and you want to bring help. So fine, you can pick anyone you want. So then Slate's like, cool, all right. I went and I found the future. I went and I found someone that has the opportunity to stick it to the man, or whatever he said. I can't remember exactly. I don't think it was that. But he revealed, this is Jeremiah Kingsley. I came out to a reaction of about 2 people clapping because they had no idea who I was. I came out in the Creator Wrestler Workshop. I was like, yay, look at me, happy, hooray. I have no idea how to be a face. And then Ravage came out, goes, okay, cool, you got your tag partner, no worries. Well, I've got Roxy's tag partner because you're going to have a tag match at the next show. And I too went to the Creator Wrestler Workshop and I found someone. And he goes, oh yeah, well, where is he? And then all of a sudden I just low blow him. So it's a turn that I've actually turned on Slate immediately and joined the Ravage Foundation. And that's how Roxy Ryot and I became a tag team straight off the bat. But Slate kind of had it figured that he knew that Ravage was up to no good. So we had a backup plan. And that backup plan was the big man, Big John Dozer. And Dozer, massive man. He came back for the first time in a few years, and he came out the bad to the bone. And
of course he did.
Yeah, he was over his. He was over. He was so happy. He gave me a spinning uranagi. First time I'd taken it, and it was beautiful. And he was just really, really happy. And then, my story with Slate came from there. I pinned him in that match. So my very first match, I pinned the legendary Jared Slate. I hit him with a claw hammer with the ref not looking and pinned him from the 1, 2, 3. Not many people can say they beat Jared Slate in their debut match. So I'm very happy with that. And then we started our rivalry from there. 6 months later, we're at the biggest show of the Southern Hemisphere Wrestling Alliance's calendar, which was Ascension. I believe this was Ascension 9, a year to the date after Roxy had the women's tables match.
Mm-hmm.
And it was me versus Slate, and then anything goes. So being a family show, we couldn't obviously go too hardcore. But chairs, baking trays, we did thumbtacks, and we got tables.
Well, because
he
you're educating the children's like, dude, don't play with thumbtacks, kids.
Yeah, well, I
Yeah.
mean, I didn't take the tax. I'm not that dumb. Because I was still fresh and green, I didn't know what to bring. So Slate brought all the weapons, and obviously breaking kayfabe now. But we discussed on how it's going to go and what ideas he had. I literally stood across on the ring, and then he got out of the ring, and then I'm yelling at the crowd saying, "Look, he's a pussy. He doesn't want to have a go at me. Like, I've already won this match. I'm already in his head." And I'm like celebrating, and then he comes back with a trash can full of weapons, and he tips them all out. I turn around and he Donkey Kongs the trash can straight into my head, and I didn't even put my hands up. So straight away, I'm like, you know what? Let's go. So I did that. The kendo stick came out, and I welted him with it. And then Roxy got up on the apron because she was out with me. She got up on the apron. She held him over the top, grabbing his arms, and I was wailing on him. I came to hit him one more time, and he kicked me in the gut. He was able to knock Roxy back a little bit. Then he turned around as I've gone again for one final one. He's ducked, and I've welted Roxy on the side of the head. And down she goes. She's out for the count. She took a spectacular spinning bump. It was beautiful. And then she walked backstage. She goes, "Was that good?" So the crowd loved it. It was great. But that was my first hardcore match. He put me through a table with a Death Valley driver from the second rope.
Oh, that wouldn't have been fun.
Oh, it was beautiful. I felt like I was flying. It was the pillow bump. It was just fantastic. I was like, whee! So he put me through that. Then he grabbed the tacks and put the table, and then just gave me the pile driver to finish the match on the tacks and the table. And yeah, he went over. Sean Ravage was fired. So that was that. But then after that, Roxy and I decided to focus on the tag team division. But we still had our issues with Slate. And then after I think about a month or two after that, Slate turned heel and joined, and they created the Pulse with him and Felix Young. So then we went our separate ways. In the lead up to that, that's where Craven comes in. I didn't know who really Craven was. But I had a match against him, and I beat him. He gave me his swanton, and I kicked out of it.
Because you were the first one to do that, right? Because I think he
That's
told me that.
That's why he told me I was the first person to ever kick out of his swanton at the level that he was. I think people would have previously, but it never happened at Schwa, and I don't think it happened on the grand scale.
Not that I ever saw a Craven at that point. I never saw anyone kick out of it, so I'm pretty sure that's correct.
After our first conversation, he was like, "Dude, I think you've got it. I think you've got a really, really good future." Because obviously, I was called the Future. That was my moniker. So, I literally picked him up for my Kingsley crash after he went back up to the second rope after I kicked out, and I pushed the referee onto the rope, and he nutted himself. And I picked him up, and I put him in the Kingsley crash. It's the air raid crash. So when we pick him up like that and then dump him on there, yep. Cool.
Yep, got it.
So, and then I beat him. And that was in March of 2018. Then I turned on Roxy. Then we had our Kitchen Carnage match where I got a carrot shoved up my ass. And I got knocked out twice. I don't know if we've actually watched that match yet.
I haven't, but I think that's going to be an episode of Reaction Wrestling Wednesday.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. It's on YouTube. Yeah, I got the whole thing of Roxy and I is that I turned on her. I said, "You don't belong in a ring. You belong in a kitchen." So we ended up having a Kitchen Carnage match. Yeah, there was an apron, a spatula. She chopped me with a spatula like 4 times.
Oh, God.
There was a lunchbox that was introduced at the start of the match.
Metal one or plastic one?
But it wasn't plastic. It was like a fabric, like it was a soft one, right?
Oh, okay.
But there was something in it. So she decked me with it, and down I go, and I'm selling like I've just been murdered. And then she puts it out and puts it on the floor, pulls it out. I'm hunched in the corner. She pulls out the carrot and just goes, yoink! And then I'm walking around like Juice and Liger going, ooh, ah, yeah, ah. And then she pulls out something else from the lunchbox, and it's a sandwich. You go, hey, you wanted a sandwich? Here's your sandwich. Shoves it straight in my face and hits me with the stunner. And all you see is the sandwich go from my mouth and go, wee, flying everywhere. Or the lettuce. Anyways, we had a pumpkin as well, and she bowling balled that straight into my guts from the other side of the ring. And then the fry pan. She knocked me out legitimately with the fry pan because we had planned it, kayfabe. We had planned it that I was supposed to duck. I didn't duck. I forgot. And then
well, you had a carrot up your ass, mate. I'm not surprised that you forgot the duck.
I was more just in kayfabe rules. I was more satisfied with the fact that I was able to clench my ass cheek so much to keep it like it looked like it was in there. Yeah, she swung and hit me with the fry pan. Big old boom, down I go. She's like, you dickhead. Then she gets up, hits her finishing move, which was a second rope leg drop. Yeah.
Wow.
And no one has ever kicked out of that, right? What do? I kick out of it. I'm incoherent.
No.
I don't know where I am. But she also is like, no, too easy. She's going to go up again. And somehow I miraculously make a comeback. And I managed to swat her off or whatnot. Then I crawl out of the ring, go backstage, come back out. I bring a rubbish bin. I'm like, okay, cool. We're back on schedule. That was what I was supposed to do. Because then she's in the ring and she's lying on the floor after I've taken her back out with a DDT. She's like, go get the rubbish bin, dickhead. I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. So I've gone and grabbed the rubbish bin. I've tipped the trash all over him. Like, this is what all of you are like Roxy, trash. And I just tip it all over her. And it wasn't like dirty, disgusting food. It was like more paper and plastic and whatnot. So I didn't want to put food on or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then as I get her up, she breaks out and she hits me with a standing spine buster.
Oh, okay.
And I land straight on the bin. And it's a plastic white bin, right? It's like a rectangle looking thing. Yeah. And then she hits me. I think she hits the gunslinger on me, and then hits me with the leg drop for the 1, 2, 3. Oh no, sorry. She hits me with the fry pan again, and then I go down properly. I didn't get knocked out this time because I got my hand up in time.
Okay.
And then bang, 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 1, 2, 3. She goes. After that, because I had a new manager at that point. I was told I was going to be rewarded if I continued to bust my ass. And I got the opportunity to wrestle for the heavyweight championship. So come Ascension 10, a year after I wrestled Jared Slate, he's doing his own thing. At the same time, in another company called WPW Uncensored, or Wrestling, Western Pro Wrestling Uncensored, it was an adults only show. Jared Slate, he started doing his hardcore matches. Not as brutal as what Dude Where's My Ring is. They weren't death matches, but it was just pure hardcore, pure adults only.
Okay.
So that was kind of just about to start. I think just after Ascension 10. But at that show, I was wrestling in a ladder match, a 5-man ladder match for the right to fight for the Pride title, which was the mid-card title. And I lost. I cracked the shits. And then the special guest host for the time, Mad Mike Massive, a man who is literally a massive of a man, came out and said, mate, you can't do this. Come on, out you go. Let's go. Get on with the show. And I'm like, okay, cool, no worries. And then I just started attacking him, me and my manager. Then the owner of the company comes out because his name at the time was Dane, came out this time as Dana Mania. So he's got the mo, he's dressed up as Hogan. He had the yellow and gold, the yellow and red the year before, but this time it switched up and he went to the DWO, the Dane World Order, and he's come out in the black and white, and he's doing all the old Hollywood Hogan, Hollywood Dane, and then they both gang up on me. I get what is the infamous teabag from Mike Massive. He literally runs across the ring and literally just jumps over the top of my head and nuts in the face.
Yep.
And then I get the Dana Mania Hulk Hogan leg drop, and I get sent away. Then there was a match that was planned for me versus Massive at the next show. Unfortunately, at Western Pro Wrestling in Baldivis, not the uncensored one. Massive was in a rumble, and he went over the top, and he broke his ankle.
Oh.
And it unfortunately ended his career.
Oh, really? Just from a broken ankle?
Yeah, well, at that point, he'd been around for 10 plus years. He just got inducted into the Schwa Hall of Fame. So, he, at that point, he's like, I'm just done.
Okay.
His ankle, it was really shattered, so he couldn't do anything. So they literally brought up a young kid, and I absolutely killed this kid. Like, I'll send you a video of me powerbombing him. Absolutely destroyed him. I've never thrown.
It will be right down here as we're talking right now when we get this video.
Boom! Just like I was more annoyed at the fact that the kid wasn't wearing proper tights, so they were loose as fuck. So I picked him up for the power bomb, and I've almost got his cock in my mouth. I'm like, you bang! So I just literally killed him. And then I stand reigning supreme. Then the next show, I'm wrestling against Del Cano. And Del Cano, the year prior, I wrestled him in my first singles match. And he beat me that night, but not this time. So I was able to get over him. And then we called out Craven, saying that, aspirations are high. We want the main gold. And everyone was laughing because, like, this kid's been around for a year and a half. There's no way he's heavyweight championship material. And then called out Craven because, Mr. Crash, Lucha Libre, all over the world, traveling here, there, and everywhere. He wasn't really there as a Schwa heavyweight champion at the time. So we called him out, and then the March show, High Stakes, comes around a year to the day almost that I wrestled him for the first time. And I pinned him to become heavyweight champion in 39 seconds. It was at the end of the show. People all pumped. I got my manager up on the apron. I pointed at him. He's turned around to swing at him. He's dropped down. I, schoolboyed him, pulled the tight, 1, 2, 3. New heavyweight champion in 39 seconds. Everyone is losing their mind going, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
And then started a 9-month reign. So that's the second time I've beaten Craven. Then we had our match, which was probably match of the year. A lot of people did say that, but it never got voted on, which was myself versus Craven at Armadale Arena. We went 20 minutes, longest match I've ever had. I came backstage after the match and I got a round of applause. They were just, they were like, this is the best match that you've ever done. You and him tore the house down. And we were just before intermission because we had the rumble later.
Yeah.
Absolutely tore the house down. And I beat him again after his best friend turned on him. So I was 3-0 against Craven. And then during that time I was heavyweight champion. I'm going back to touching on Jared Slate. He was undefeated at WPW Uncensored. And there was a guy by the name of Pegasus that he was feuding with at the time. And Pegasus would try and find a way to squeak out of his matches against him because he's like, no, we're not doing anything violent. No, I'm not doing that. But then at the end of the matches, he would come out and he would attack him and Slate couldn't get his hands on him. So there was a show where they said, oh, sorry, Pegasus is unavailable. And Slate's like, oh, you got to be fucking kidding me. And like, but there is another replacement, and out I come. So it's my match with Slate. It's a hardcore match. One of the most funnest matches I've had. I hit at that point I was using the Tour of the Islands as a finish.
Okay.
And I did that onto a chair. He powerbombed me through a ladder from the second. That really, really hurt.
It's Jared Slate, mate. What do you expect?
Yeah.
Honestly.
No, it was just really cool. There was no blood or anything like that. It was fine. Actually, no, there was blood because he Donkey Konged me again, but this time I didn't put my hands up and split my head open.
Oh, dude.
But yeah, Pegasus came out at the end, and I beat Jared Slate. That's the first person to beat him, uncensored. For the next 7 months, he was frustrated as hell. I was still heavyweight champion at Schwa, and then about 2 months before Ascension 11, I got pulled into the office after I said that, hey, Roxy has to step away because she's preggers. They said, well, we think you are experiencing a bit of burnout, so I think it's time that you take a break, focus on the family. I didn't want to because I'm like, I don't want to stop. Like, I just want to keep going. I'm good. I'm fine. They're like, no, you need to have a break. Spend time with your family. So I did. So the plan was set in motion for me to drop the heavyweight championship belt at Ascension 11. And then the very next week, I was facing Jared Slate in a match that he had planned. It was the most hardcore match I've ever been in. And it was the most fun match I've ever been in. We had barbed wire, we had thumbtacks, we had staple guns, we had a lot of fun. We had the barbed wire board, we had the Christmas bauble board because it was a Christmas themed show.
Okay.
And then we had the candy cane board where I pop-up powerbombed him onto the candy canes. And they weren't sticking, so you know how it kind of does that.
Yeah,
I was sticking up like that, so it wasn't pointy. But it still hurt like a bitch.
Oh, of course it would.
100%. It would have been very, very painful. And yeah. That was cool. That was the end of my rivalry with him. So I had a very good story rivalry with him, but with Slate, with Craven, our last match was literally the same show that Roxy had her last match. I was at Manjimup. I came out as champion. It was a battle royal. And Craven won the battle royal. We had a face-off. And then I came back out for the match later. We had another pretty decent match. But then he won via DQ because I obviously leveled him out with the championship belt and was like, ha, suck it. You all stink. Rah, rah, rah. And actually, this was the Kalgoorlie show. Yeah, this was Kalgoorlie, which was November of 2019. So it was a month before I lost the belt. And yeah, Craven has one victory over me, but it's not a pinfall. So I've always said Craven's never pinned me.
Let's be honest. It's not he's never beaten you. So let's not even take the DQ into question.
All of his championships, all of his gold, all of his traveled career. He ain't got nothing on Jeremiah Kingsley.
Exactly. and I'm only saying this because I'm still pretty pissed off at Craven for, lying to me for that week and a half and making me make my heart sink.
Well, see, outside of that, like the bond I have with Craven, out of all the rivalries and all the stories outside of the wrestling ring, he's been such a massive, massive support for me. I love him to bits. I'll go to the ends of the earth to do anything I can for him. He was going through a really, really rough patch on our last match. And he was like, I was in the locker room with him. He just had a shower. He was almost in tears. Don't think anyone really knows about this story. It was just me and him. And I'm just listening to him about how much he's spiraling. And I'm like, you've got to step up, dude. Like, I know it's hard. I know it's tough, but I will always support you no matter what. Like, got a friend in me and I'll always be there when you need me. That's why we had a killer match. That's why we have great chemistry. So yeah, I've pitched the idea to him several times. I'm like, look, let's just build a story, and I don't care what fed. I don't care anything. Like we build our story and we promote it our way and tell our story from how we come to where we be. It's a big story. People would be invested in it if we tell it right. No one's really bought it yet, but that's probably because I'm doing things very differently this time around. I had 3 months and then I was on a main show. Now there is a plethora of talent in the School of Pro Wrestling at EPW, and I'm fighting to try and find a way in. Whereas last time I was given an opportunity. So it's definitely different territory for me now, and I've never had to do. So I'm fighting from a long way back, but I'm training. So I'm trying to get my foot in. That's why I decided to go, you know what, can't get booked here. I'll just try and get myself booked in interstate. So there's 3 different shows that I've now been booked for over East in the coming months, which I'm looking forward to doing. I'm not going to say where, but in March and in May and June, I'll be traveling abroad again.
Sounds like you're going to have a very fun time doing that too. Now, just
enough about me. Let's talk about the Roxy show. I can talk.
Hey, that's all right. When I had Craven on here, we were literally talking for hours, and then I realized, we haven't really talked about what we actually need to talk about. So I was like, dude, you're going to have to come back on later in a future date. And I still haven't worked out a date with him on that one. Craven, I'll get you back on. Don't worry. And just for payback, I'm guessing from that story, Jeremiah Kingsley's made you cry. So payback's a bitch. I
love Craven. Like, yeah.
But he did make you cry on his episode.
Yeah, he did, because I said, so I didn't know about What If It's Cool until I watched that episode. And then I went back and watched a couple of others. I'm like, wow, this is a pretty good podcast. DCP does a rap for himself. But did I say that right? DCP? No, it's DPC. No. And sorry, mate.
It's all right.
It's all right. Hey.
It's all right, Jeremiah Niner kidding to me. That's fine. I'm happy.
Hey, it's all right. I already forgot who that other guy was that's supposed to be at MXW but never was. Ooh. We won't mention Crossfire. Who? He's like, son of a bitch. No. Yeah. Luke is fantastic. Said he's fucking name.
It's all right. It's all right. I bleeped it out. Don't worry.
Yeah, cool.
Just don't be like EVO and keep saying it and saying it and saying it, and then finally I just give up.
Evo. I love Evo. Birds are not real.
Just while we're at it, EVO, Pepsi Max is an amazing drink. Shut up.
Yeah, I have to agree, but
there we go.
But I'm also biased to incline myself on his side, because EVO, I made his latest entrance video for him in like 2 days' notice. So he was pretty happy with his new singles Tron that went out there, which is cool.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, that's my side gig. I'm an editor. And we've got the EPW Australian Super Show coming up, and I spent most of my day yesterday adjusting graphics for the Rumble that's just been announced.
Ooh.
So I know everyone in that Rumble. No, I'm not going to say anything.
I was like, do I want to spoil it? No, because it's probably going to come out a little bit later than that.
Yeah, no. I can keep my books close to my chest when I need to.
Yeah.
But let me just say that show that's coming up, it is going to be the biggest show anyone has ever seen at an indie local level. Like, there are so many people coming up from over east to watch Elimination Chamber, but that are going to be a part of this show. And I have no doubt there will be agents and talent at the Super Show and recruiters potentially looking at the likes of Delta and some others as well who are on the show.
I was literally about to say something. I went, no, I'll shut my mouth on that one.
Oh, well, see, Delta versus the Don has already been announced for the RCW Grand Championship, so that's fine.
And she look, may I just say, she is one of the most fucking talented wrestlers out there.
The more she wrestles, the better she gets.
Yeah, like seriously, like I can't stress enough how much I want to see more of her in Victoria. Like I like unless I'm going to an MCW show or whenever she does DMDU, you know, I'm always missing out because I either can't do it because I'm working, or I've just missed out on tickets. I've only seen her live once, I think.
By the time this video gets out, they would have already announced the first person in the Rumble. So
Should be in now. Nah, let's keep
no, because you can edit this out.
Okay.
But if it has been announced, go for gold. So the first person that should be in the Rumble is none other than the example, Ricky South. Yeah.
I've talked so much about Adelaide and Perth, you know, wrestling. Oh, sorry, well, not the wrestling, but you know, just like those two places.
I'm kidding.
No, just those
How
two
dare
places. Just those two places, right? But I'll gotta admit though, the wrestling over there is stacked. Like,
look, the thing is with PWA and MCW and PCW, Nui Pro, all those guys, I love everything they do. I want to aspire to be like them. I'd love to have the SEEC set up here in Perth somewhere where we have everything proper and we've got cameras everywhere and a proper ramp and, you know, proper wrestling seating around the ring and like elevator side. I'd love to have something like PCW has. PWA and their camera crew, and my God, they're amazing. MCW as well, like
the Titantron of theirs is absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Nui Pro are just getting better and better and better. I'd love to aspire for that to be in Perth, but because we are so far away, we do have world-class wrestlers here. We are trained by world-class wrestlers. We put on some amazing matches, but it just doesn't get enough recognition. Where, you know, I hear people say all the time that if there's a top three, EPW are third, because it's either MCW, PWA, and then EPW, or by PWA, MCW, EPW. I'm trying really hard to try and get more content out there, because in this day and age, social media is running rampant, and I'm seeing more companies with littler names starting to put their shows online. You know, like Mayhem Pro, like MXW now with their pre-show. You know, like more and more are starting to come out. So it gives more people the opportunity to expose themselves and to promote themselves, but not only promote themselves, promote the wrestling company they're working for. And then getting more of a name than people like, prime example, right? Chuck Norris. He's a great wrestler. I love Chuck Norris. I met him when I was at MXW, and he's such a cool guy, and a big lad too. And when I saw him come out in pink, I was like, but it's just it's so good, right? And you know, I'd love to share the ring with him one day. And we had really, really good conversations and chats. And I got to see video of him the other day, and he was wrestling the director. And even the director, like, he's such a good dude too. And I'm just getting opportunities to watch these people that I wouldn't get to watch because I'm in a different state. So having that opportunity to be able to see other people excel and do the thing they love and promote themselves it's very rewarding. So I'm hoping to kind of change the flow of how EPW presented. I understand that they have their certain things that they'd like to do, and I support that. But I just want to try and make a difference and try and make a change and elevate it more to be going, you know what? Best in the country is EPW. Because we do have that. I mean, we've got Damian Slater and Davis Storm, you know, two of the greatest wrestlers in Perth that have ever come out of Perth. Yes, Damian Slater's a South Australian, but at heart, he's really Western Australian. He's got his family here and everything else. But like we've got Marcus Pitt, and we've got now we have Solomon Blackwell, the smoothest wrestler alive. We've got Alex Kingston, we've got Taylor King. We've got some phenomenal. The Don Michael Morleone is literally the most intelligent man I know in pro wrestling, and I go to his training sessions every Tuesday to learn from him. I'm attending the EPW summer camp just before the show. And I'm going to be taught by Damian Slater and David Storm. First time ever, because I haven't really been able to get to any of their sessions. But, I've seen some of the people that are coming over for the summer camp, and some of them are people that have been wrestling for ages and are just wanting to learn the tutelage from them because they're that good. So, exciting times in wrestling in general, but exciting times in Perth, especially for us, because, we're in a fishbowl over here. We're so far away. I wish I lived in Melbourne, so then I can go to any different show and work from. I'd love to work for Alpha Pro. I'd love to work for Adrenaline Pro. I'd love to work for Mayhem Pro and get to the Relentless Gym. I'd love to work at MCW, PWA, Newey Pro, Nightfall, Y-Bay, QWA, like all of them. And I only know all of these companies purely because of the fact of their social media reach and how they've developed and what they're doing. So you know what? If you're going to put this on Facebook, use that.
I love how this episode was meant to be purely talking about the story of the Roxy Ryot, Forever Roxy event, and we've gone and done a complete 180 and talked about everything but the actual event itself.
Let's talk about that now. Let's reschedule, because like I said, I do go off on a tangent, and you're probably going to have a lot of fun editing this.
Oh yeah. Well, we haven't sworn for too long, so it's not like I have to do much on the side of that. Oh shit.
I didn't say it. That was you. That's all your fault.
Oh,
no. So the Forever Roxy Ryot show finally came to fruition, and I didn't know how I was going to act or how I was going to go. I was panicking something chronic because on the day, I'd organised to pick up the truck.
Yes.
On the day, and it was I picked up the truck later than I should have. I thought 10 o'clock should be fine. No. 10 o'clock was not fine, because by the time I got to Malaga, which was about a 10-minute drive from where I picked up the truck. So I live in a suburb called Thornley, and to get the truck was in a suburb called Osborne Park. That was roughly around a 25-minute drive, but I couldn't drive.
Any bats in Osborne Park or anything like that?
No. It's more of an industrial area.
Okay.
And in Aussie Park, I couldn't drive because I knew I was driving the truck, and I didn't want to leave. So I had to catch public transport. So that took me an hour to get there. Picked up the truck. I took off. Then I had someone waving me down and like, what's the matter? And the guy that I got the truck from, he left the back door open, and I had no idea. So
no.
The door swinging. Luckily, there was nothing in it.
Oh, thank God.
But I literally was like, oh, shit. So that was a great start. Then I got to Malaga, which is where the School of Pro Wrestling is. And I had a few people waiting for me there. My aim was to be at the venue by 1 o'clock. So then I could go, cool, we have plenty of time, set up the ring, get everything done. Then I could have my meeting, tell everyone how much I love them, and go through the show. That did not happen. I got to the venue at 2:20, an hour and 20 minutes of people waiting for me to get there with everything. And as soon as I got there, they were like, yay, I got a massive round of applause. I'm just like, yeah, I nearly reversed into a pole. As soon as I got there, I started reversing, and then all I hear is like, no! And I'm like, what? And then realized I was watching reverse camera. I'm like, ooh, that was lucky. So I went forward a little bit, opened everything up, went through. Everything got brought in because I had to pick up the lighting as well. And then everyone just got straight to it. They brought their gear in, they went backstage, and then they just started getting everything put together. I was still running around like a headless chook because I still was trying to meet everyone as their agent. I was trying to organize the Rumble, and I realized that I'd written the Rumble wrong near the end of it. So I had Hayden Zenith, who was the workhorse of that Rumble, and Mr. Thompson. I had them kind of organize it a bit more so that it kind of flowed, which it did. So that was good. So I got everyone huddled together and we kind of went through it. And then by the time I was ready to do my meeting, it was doors open. I'm like,
oh no.
Yeah. And I'm like, great, I can't do the meeting. So I didn't end up doing the meeting. I literally said, all right, everyone backstage, doors are opening. I hope you got your shit together, because I sure haven't. And I still had to plan my match. So I asked Felix Young and Michelle. I said, hey guys, look, can you just plan the match and fit me in where you can? Because it's been 4 years since I've had a proper wrestling match. So just fit me in where you can. I'm going to be safe. It shall be fine. So they gave me some stuff. And obviously being main event, I was more excited about watching the Rumble and having everyone's reactions and making sure everything went well, which it did. The only issues I had for the show was that I got out at 12:30 in the morning. I had to leave by 12:30. That was the cutoff. And I was sitting there for 20 minutes as everyone's packed up and left. I was pretty much the only one left to sweep up the fire extinguisher fluid that some dickhead decided to blow off at the show. Apparently he was drunk and I didn't realize, because I wasn't selling alcohol. And set it off. So I had to try and sweep it up, clean it up. And I didn't have a broom. I didn't have a rag. I didn't have a bin, because we'd all packed up by that point. So here's me frantically trying to clean it all up so I didn't get in trouble. And then I finally left, and I got home at about 3:30 in the morning.
Oh God!
Because then I had to drive from Armidale to Malaga to unload everything, and that was a 45-minute drive from Armidale to Malaga. So you got north of the river and south of the river. The Swan River's in the middle, where Perth City is. North of the river, or the Northies as I call them. Proper people. That's where the School of Pro Wrestling is. That's all of that. And then you got the Dirty South, which is my area, where we had the training school for Schwa. And that's where, that Roxy show was just a massive success. Everything went according to plan, if not better. And then I had a lot of wrestlers on that show come to me afterwards to go, that was the most fun I've had at a wrestling show in a long time. Everyone was chill, everyone was happy, everyone was doing it for her, and everyone was just there for the moment. There wasn't any backstage quarreling. There wasn't any people worrying about how they were booked or where their spot was on the card. It was just a lot of fun, because it meant a lot more. And she would have been really, really, really proud of it. And I mean, my son was over the moon because he got to be in the ring, and he loves being in the ring. And if you remember, if you're watching the end of that match, he's lying in the middle of the ring doing Lego angels. He just had a ball.
And if you remember when we were watching it on Reaction Wrestling Wednesdays, John was just like, "Oh, he is completely comfortable in that. We'll probably see him in the future in that ring."
Yeah. I remember actually you confusing Papa Germ as my son.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I was talking about my son on the outside. You thought the number one entrant was my son. I'm like, I'm not that old. He's Kevin's hand. It's not my son.
I was like thinking, hang on. It was like, what were we doing? I was thinking, maybe adopted son, maybe? I don't see the resemblance.
Hey, well, I am a sneak peek. I am working on a new gimmick that kind of factors something like that.
Okay.
Which I'll tell you about. I'll tell you about after. Well, because of the success of the show, I can officially announce that there will be a Forever Roxy Ryot 2. I have booked the venue. I'm still working out all the other stuff. But September 22nd, 2024. It is on a long weekend for WA. So it'll be a matinee show. So I'm looking at starting it around 3, maybe a bit earlier, because I want enough time to get the show done. Kids can go home, get ready for, well, they don't need to go to school because it's a long weekend. It's the King's birthday that weekend. So the public holiday falls on Monday for us.
Yeah, that's right. It's a different time in WA for us, isn't it?
Yes. So I booked the venue, and I have spoken to a lot of people with my networking in Melbourne and things. I have had a lot of people reach out to me in regards to potentially being on the show. I've literally said straight out, look, I can't afford to pay you to fly over. This will have to be on your own dime. If you want to come over, I'd love it, and I'll book you on the show. I'm looking at a potential payment schedule, payment plan this time in regards, because last time it was off raw emotion, right? This time around, I'm wanting to make sure that if anyone wants to perform on it, that they're kind of compensated a little, because I don't like people doing things for nothing. I did it for years and I hated it. So if I can give them something for it, for their time, I would rather do that. I try and be an honest and kind man as much as I can. Forever Roxy Ryot 2 will be happening. And I'm really, really, really looking forward to putting together a card. I mean, I've already put a card. I put 2 or 3 cards together, actually, just in case people pull out. Because I put it out there to people and I said, look, I'd love for you to be on the show. However, if you do not want to be on the show, I'm not going to be upset. I completely understand, and it's perfectly fine. There'll be people that I desperately want on the show that I'll try and persuade, but I won't, because at the end of the day, this is something that could be an annual thing, and that's something that I'm hoping to do in the long run. There we go. So
love it.
Yep. Graphic is ready. I have another one that I put together. All right. This is unofficial. It is not locked in concrete. I was around on my Photoshop.
All right.
But I was like, I put it out to the guy, and he's like, oh, yes. It's time for me to finish my story.
Whoa! Whoa! I was not expecting that. So for those who are listening who are not watching this, it looks like we might have an ending to the story of Jeremiah Kingsley versus Craven.
Maybe.
Holy
Look, I don't know what will happen. This match may not even happen. I was literally piss farting around. I'm like, Craven, we got to finish our story. The whole thing at the moment is finishing the story. Well, here's the story. You've never pinned me. You've never beaten me. You've never won. Maybe now it's time for you to try and finish your story, whether I let you or not.
Who knows? All right, Cody Rhodes. So that sounds really good.
I've already reached out to Craven, and he literally said that you let me know when and where, and I'll make sure I'm there. So really no secrets this time. If there is a Roxy Ryot show and it officially happens, if nothing throws me off or something happens, I know there's been a fair few wrestling shows lately being cancelled, unfortunately. But if all goes well, Craven will be there.
Good to hear. Well, Jeremiah Kingsley, thank you so much for joining me today and telling me the story of the Forever Roxy event, but also just sharing me some war stories and keeping her memory alive as well.
That's all I'm going to try and do. And like I said, at the end of that show, we were going to come back. We were really close to coming back. We were going to be known as Parabellum. And we were just going to come out and just be this dominant tag team. Prepare for war. So now I'm just like, yep, I need to keep a memory alive. I want to keep a memory alive. I want people to remember who she was, what she stood for, and how wrestling as a community. Because at the end of the day, and I know you've already said your thank yous, but at the end of the day, wrestling to me is more than just about a wrestling show. It's more than just about entertainment. It's about a community and bringing people together from different companies, different places, to put on a show in her name and dedicating it to her really, really capitulates what the type of person she wanted to be.
Mm.
And like I said, she always used to say, "Why is it a dick measuring contest? Like no one cares who's better than who." Like I was talking before about, I want EPW to be number one. But that's just because I'm biased, because I've put my blood, sweat, and tears to everything that they're doing at the moment to make things better.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if we can all come together and put on a massive show and just, it's community. And it's more than just about raising awareness for meningitis. It's more than just about being Roxy Ryot and who she was and what she stood for. It's so much more. And if I can get 300 people in that building again, then phenomenal. Hopefully I can put together a card that is very appealing.
Well, when the it's official with you and Craven, I think that's going to be sellout, mate, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, that's just you because you're biased.
I'm as we speak, I'm already looking on my phone trying to get the cheapest flight over there so I can go.
Jetstar Afterpay is my best friend. Trust me, that's how I get around the state of the moment. I'll buy a one-way ticket, and then when it gets closer, after I've paid that one, I'll buy another one-way, so then I'm not out too much.
Very sneaky, but I like it.
I'd rather spend $200 on a one-way flight than trying to fork out 400 in one hit.
Yeah, good point.
And especially like traveling. All right, so there's one place that I'm going to say that I will be traveling to, and that's I'm making my Queensland debut. And getting into Brisbane, like that set me back a little bit, because I'm like, Jesus, if I buy a flight outright, it's $600-700. Now I don't expect a company to outlay that sort of money for a small no-name like me, especially one that's been out of the game for 4 years. So I realized I got to try and get out there, and I'll be repping my Roxy gear. I'll be out there making sure that she's remembered and telling her stories, meeting new people that may have heard of her as well, which will be really cool. Like I said, MXW was a killer time. And there are some big surprises heading our way in regards to performers on that show, not just wrestlers either. So I've had some good conversations with people, and nice. It's going to be an experience too, because people won't know, like perfect people won't know the people that are coming over. They might know one or two, but they won't know them, and it'll just be fresh. It'll be new, new things to happen. So I'm all about bringing new. So Forever Roxy Ryot to September 22nd, Armadale Arena. It's gonna be a riot.
Here. To stay up to date with everything of Roxy Ryot 2, make sure to follow Jeremiah Kingsley on all his socials. Jeremiah, where can they find you on all your socials?
Instagram is at JK Reborn. There should be an underscore there somewhere. I don't know.
JK underscore Reborn from memory.
Yep, there you go. And then on my Facebook, obviously, you can also find me at Heel Turn Productions, Heel Turn Pro on Instagram. That's where I do all my editing, all my videos. That's where you'll find all of the Roxy Ryot show, every single match. I think currently right now the main event, the match that I was in, has reached almost 2,000 views, which is cool. And outside of that, hopefully you'll see me popping up here and there and everywhere over East and in WA. Hopefully I get an opportunity at Southern Territory Wrestling, at New Horizons Pro Wrestling, Dude Where's My Ring, and at Explosive Pro Wrestling. But we'll wait and see. Even if you don't, check them all out, because they're all hardworking people doing the same thing, trying to make a great show for entertainment for the fans. So
exactly. Before we finish up, I just want to say, rest in peace, Roxy Ryot. We will miss you, and we will keep your memory alive. And Jeremiah Kingsley, as always. And I normally do this after the show. I've got to do this on air. If you ever need to talk, mate, I'm always here. It doesn't have to be on the show. It can be, by phone call, by text. It doesn't matter. I'm always here for you, my brother.
And
Jeremiah Kingsley. Yep.
One more thing.
Yes.
John L. Crossfire.
Jeremiah Kingsley, thank you for being part of What If It's Cool.
Thank you for having me.
And that's the end of that episode. Want to be featured on What If It's Cool or know someone with an amazing story that needs to be told? Reach out to me. I can be reached on whatifitscoolbusiness@gmail.com. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Want more from What If It's Cool? Make sure to check out the YouTube channel where you can find the latest episodes of Mukbang Around, Reaction, and of course the podcast. And don't forget to follow What If It's Cool on all socials. It can be found at What If It's Cool. Keep that support coming. And until next time, I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.